Hey there, everyone. This is Samuel Johnson, and welcome back to Lyoko Retrospectives. And two things. One, if you're wondering why I'm filming from this angle and not my usual angle, it's because, put simply, I forgot to charge my tablet. So this is the only position that I can have it in, so that it's charging while still being able to record me while I'm sitting here. So apologies if that gets disorienting. And secondly, I'm just kind of a little. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling a bit weird. I'm just kind of feeling a bit out of it today. I'm not sick or anything. It's just, you ever have one of those days where you're just not feeling up to stuff, where you just kind of, where the only thing you want to do is lie in bed and just kind of waste away? Yeah, it's kind of one of those days for me. I kind of need to push myself a little to get to the vlog today. So, apologies in advance if I seem out of it at any point during the vlog. So, anyway, yeah. You're not here to listen to all that though. Today we're here to actually discuss episode 21 of Code Lyoko Zero Gravity Zone, and I think this episode's kind of dumb. Just gonna throw it out there. I think this episode's kind of dumb. Why? Well, let's get to the premise. Well, it turns out in this episode that a soccer tournament's gonna be approaching, and Ulrich is said to be kind of their star player, just getting in there and he's pretty much just their secret weapon against the other team. However, as the soccer tournament draws near, Xana rears his ugly head again. In this case, what he's doing is that he's screwing with gravity by messing with electromagnetic fields, which, yeah, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I'll get into that when I talk about the negatives, but pretty much what this means is that if they don't find a way to stop Xana, then everything is going to go floating into space. An example being Sissy, who was practicing her baton twirling because she was supposed to be the cheerleader for the soccer tournament, and when she threw her baton into the air, it flew right into space. So, yeah, pretty much the instant the group realized that something is up, they decided they should probably go to Lyoko and get this whole thing taken care of. But Ulrich, for some reason, says that he's out and doesn't want to go because he wants to be in the soccer tournament. As such, Jeremy rightfully jumps down Ulrich's throat, and because this is kind of important. If they fail, because if they don't do anything, people are going to die. But Ulrich gets more defensive and walks out, and Odd explains that the reason Ulrich is so determined to do this is because apparently his dad's kind of a perfectionist. Is kind of a perfectionist, so to speak. Like, you gotta be, like, the only way you can be seen as successful in his eyes is if you're, like, that's at the top of your game, so to speak. And since apparently Ulrich's grades aren't that great, his skill in soccer is the only way he can get his dad to connect with him. Hence why he wants to take part in the soccer tournament and be the star player, as he thinks is the only way his dad will actually give him any sort of approval. As such, Jeremy, when he hears this, is more understanding, but still, he would have at least liked it if Ulrich told him. But whatever. Either way, they decide they need to go to Lyoko So Jeremy, Yumi, and Odd make their way to the factory, with Odd and Yumi going to Lyoko, while Jeremy tries isolating the power surges that Xana is utilizing, since he's pretty much taking control of fuse boxes and anywhere and anything and pretty much any other power cores, anything that can, pretty much any power stations and so forth, to screw with gravity, as using them he's able to manipulate it. Again, I'll get into that near the end. But pretty much he's able to figure out, it turns out that this plan isn't just one of taking over the world either. It's also a bit of Xana's personal vendetta, as it turns out that, because how the group was able to discover that Xana was up to something was through Sissy talking about how she lost her baton, and Yumi accidentally getting caught in one of Xana's test runs, so to speak. As such, it turns out Xana's real plan was that he was going to target the school during the soccer game, and his plan was to get all the kids, but again, thanks to the test runs being found and being taught, and thanks to the test runs being found out, they were able to get a heads up on what was going on, so they were actually able to. So, ergo, he's not. So it was only lucky that. So they're not. It's lucky that they're not there. However, they also realize. However, Jeremy, through enough tampering, is able to figure out that the inside of the building is going to be hit first, and while everything seems fine on the outside, since everyone at the school's at the soccer tournament, they're able to piece together that their science teacher, I forgot her name, is not there. Not there. As such, during a break, Jeremy manages to call Ulrich and tries to tell him to get her out of there. And Ulrich is initially hesitant because, again, his dad's in the stand. He's trying to put on his best show. He's trying to trying to do his best to try and stand out. But eventually, Ulrich does change his mind and fakes an injury to get out of the game, which Sissy doesn't end up buying, so she ends up following him as he makes his way into the science lab. But it's at that point that Xana strikes as the gravity in the room just gets all screwy and wonky as Ulrich, his teacher, and eventually Sissy kind of get all thrown around. Eventually, Jeremy's able to hack into their system, to keep Xana out, but it's at that time that Xana hits the power grid outside and pretty much causes everyone to fall up. So, in the meantime, in Lyoko, Odd and Yumi are also having their own problems as Xana set up a little squadron of hornets to guard the tower. And while Yumi and Odd are doing their best against them, it ultimately turns into a losing battle as there's just too many of them. However, Aelita is able to stop them by using her abilities to create an illusion that the hornets immediately target, and then ultimately shoot into the abyss. Then they follow after her because they gotta make sure they get her. Which I kind of found funny. But either way, it distracted them enough for the real Aelita to make her way to the tower, and deactivated, and the soccer tournament starts over again. So, yeah. So, what did I not like about... So, okay, I might as well just actually start with what I did like. For starters, the gravity thing is actually an interesting angle. Because, again, it does kind of fit with Xana's prerogative. Because, again, as we continually shown throughout the show, Xana doesn't take half measures most of the time. As such, being able to turn gravity against anyone is kind of a scary thing, especially if you can pretty much make it so that the center of gravity goes up instead of down. Because in a building, it makes sense. Because if you could end up on the ceiling and everything would still be fine. But in this case, being able to shift gravity so that it's up towards space, it actually becomes a really scary thought, especially in the climax when you see everyone in the soccer field especially in the climax when you see the lab get screwy as pretty much the center of gravity goes from the one wall to the next to the ceiling to another wall, etc. So you see them all so you're seeing everyone inside get thrown around and try and work around it. But by that same token, when it's shifted outside and you see everyone see everyone falling up, it kind of is like falling into a bottomless abyss, because that is going to equal death. They're not going to hit flat ground. They're going to fly straight into space. And the idea of them just slowly is actually pretty terrifying. It kind of gives you the chills. So that is actually a very valid threat. What doesn't work about it is its execution. As I mentioned, how Xana was able to do this is by hacking into various power grids and destabilizing the Earth's electromagnetic field. That's dumb. That's dumb. Because, again, I'm not a big science guy. I got C's in science class, so I only know so much about it, but I don't think that gravity and electromagnetism work that way. I think, again, I'm sorry if I end up wrong, but as I was watching this episode, I was wondering if I was wrong, and I did look it up. While the electromagnetic field does have an effect on the Earth and how things operate to a degree, gravity and magnetism have nothing to do with each other. Gravity is when the mass of an object is so great it pulls things toward it. Like, for example, like this. It fell down because the mass of the Earth is so great that it pretty much pulls us to it. That's how great it is. And the reason why the moon is, and the reason why the gravity is lighter on the moon is because it's a lighter mass. It's still strong enough so that we are pulled down to it, but we're lighter on there because it's a smaller mass than the Earth. It's like if you took, it's like if I had a pebble and there were like little tiny life forms on that. To us, the pebble would just be like a small little pebble, but to them it would be their whole planet. They would be attracted to it because the mass of the pebble is greater than them. Whereas a magnet is not. It's two forces that are opposite charges being attracted, or it's being attracted to each other, or two forces with the same charge being repelled. That's not how it works. There is gravity and and magnetism have nothing in common. And as a result, it kind of doesn't make sense how Xana's screwing with the electromagnetic field would cause gravity to shift in all these areas. It doesn't really. So no, it doesn't make sense. It's just kind of dumb. And don't tell me suspension of disbelief. No, that's just dumb. It's dumb science, and it's not true science. And unfortunately, that's not where the dumb ends in this episode. The second dumb thing about this thing is the B plot with Ulrich wanting to be in the soccer tournament. And again, the whole idea and here's the thing, the idea of the plot of him wanting to impress his dad isn't a bad thing. Again, because you can have an idea of a perfectionist parent pushing their kid and them just thinking, if I do this, they'll love me and so forth. Stuff like that would be fine, but it fails in technically three aspects. One, we never see Ulrich's father beyond the game. Like, before Ulrich has his freak out and we're told by Odd that Ulrich's dad is a perfectionist, we get no interaction between Ulrich and his dad, or even a mention of Ulrich's dad. It's just, that was the first time he's mentioned. And when Ulrich's dad disappeared at the game in the episode, he's a non-entity. He's just there in the audience, just making faces whenever Ulrich does something well, or slightly scowling when Ulrich isn't playing. Beyond that, and even then, I think he only has 2 lines in the episode. Ulrich and "I am proud of you." Those are his only lines. Which kind of stinks, because really, we don't have anything to compare it to. We don't understand. We are always, it's an example of show don't tell. We are told what Ulrich's relationship with his dad is, but we're not shown that relationship. And it wouldn't have been that hard to give us a peek into what their lives are like. Maybe have like a scene where Ulrich's phone rings, he picks it up, and then he's just like, "Oh, hey Dad, yeah, it's like, "Oh, you're coming? Yeah, don't worry, I'll do good. Yeah, I know. Yeah, just something like an emotional reaction, like maybe we don't even have to hear his dad's end of the conversation. Just Ulrich's reactions or faces he makes while talking to his dad, or his dad telling him, like maybe him saying, "Yeah, I'll win. Yeah, I promise. I'll do my best." And just little things to help establish how Ulrich feels towards his dad, or how much he's riding emotionally on this before he has his freak out. That would actually make sense. Because it would, again, get you invested in his character, and then when you see his freak out, you're wondering, oh, you understand it. But again, it doesn't really make sense in that regard. And as such, it's really just an example of informed attributes. We're told what their relationship is like, but we don't see it, and that unfortunately kind of and that unfortunately does not help, especially since, and this is kind of where the second complaint comes into play. It makes Ulrich just look selfish. It looks like he's prioritizing this game over people dying. And when Jeremy has this freak out, I'm kind of agreeing with him. This is an example of Ulrich trying to prioritize his own worth over everyone else. I'm sorry, but when you risk everyone on Earth being jettisoned into space by an evil AI, at this point you either flub the game or everyone dies. That's just kind of how it is. And again, it would make more sense if Ulrich volunteered to stay behind, because he says, "I need to be at the game, but I can keep an eye on things if things go wrong." It would have been actually alleviated if he did volunteer to still do his job. But no, he just said, "No, I'm going to pass on this." And you may be thinking, well, again, he's trying to impress his dad and so forth. But this then leads into the third complaint. They've got time travel. Yeah, remember how I said that they have the return to the past function, and that kind of alleviates them from any consequences or potential growths that occur with certain characters throughout the episode? That can work in their benefit as well. The instant Xana attacks, anything that happens between when the crisis starts and when they deactivate the tower is free gain. They could blow up a building, and then and when everything's reversed, the building would be right back. They could punch a guy and get detention, and then when everything's done, and then when everything's said and done, that guy will be fine, and they'll still be able to hang out with their friends after school. I'm saying, and that would also work with the case of the soccer game. Oric can stand missing the soccer game for just this occasion because he knows that time is going to be reversed when they fix it. Meaning he can stand to miss it. And even if they don't fix it, it means that everyone's going to die. So again, not only is it a stupid conflict, but it's an unnecessary one. There is no conflict, actually. He doesn't have to worry about missing the game. They fix the because they can fix the problem. And again, he doesn't have to worry about trying to impress his dad. He'll be back. Still have time to do the game once everything's said and done. He can ditch the game. Let them flub up. Because once they reverse time, he'll be there and make sure that whatever they screwed up, he can fix and win the game for them to get his dad's respect. But no, it's a stupid conflict. Not only does it have not have enough weight to actually to not only get you emotionally invested, but it doesn't make sense at all. Oric should know that that there's no worries, that there's nothing there's nothing at stake here. The instant Santa makes his play, he can pretty much just say F you to everything. Because he knows that once time is reversed, he'll be there and make sure that everything goes fine. That's just how it works. And again, it would have been alleviated if he said, "I'll make sure that nothing goes wrong here." But no, it's a dumb conflict. It doesn't make sense because we don't see enough of Oric's interaction with his father. And just from a story standpoint in general, it doesn't work at all because again, it can just be undone. Everything can be fixed, and and it doesn't matter if he missed it or not. So he'll just be there when the time is right. He'll just be there the second time around, and no one will be the wiser. So yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's like an example of but he'll know. But again, I don't know. It still feels dumb, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So yeah. While the threat, in theory, is a terrifying one, when you think about it logically, it doesn't feel like it doesn't make any sense especially in how they try and explain it. The conflict with Ulrich and his dad doesn't feel as fleshed out as it should be, and just in general, it feels like it's a fabricated conflict that really shouldn't have existed in the first place. So, yeah, these factors combined, while there are aspects of this episode that I do find actually kind of well with how they work, especially when you see everyone literally falling into the sky. At the end of the day, it's just a dumb episode. I'm sorry, but I just think it's dumb. If you like the episode, good for you, but yeah, I think it's dumb, so yeah. That's just about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.